The following is a brief for the CISO and nation stakeholders on the research, evaluation of alternatives, and recommendations in a cyber IT operation and risk management briefing. Contribution by Dawn Salman for Group 5, UK, UMGC CYB-670, Project 3, Step 8. The ransomware incident at the summit forced nations to rethink their cyber IT operations and risk management strategies. This includes its reevaluating business continuity planning, BCP, software assurance needs and expectations, key attributes of software development lifecycle, SDLC, supply chain risk and mitigations, followed by recommendations covering cost and contractual agreements. Business continuity planning, or BCP, best practices are to create contingency plans that maintain business operations regardless of unexpected or catastrophic events. BCP covers contingency for all mission-critical systems at the nation by an evaluation process that covers policy statements, business impact analysis, BIA, preventative controls, contingency, testing, training, and maintenance. The policy statement defines the chain of command to disseminate instructions and status reports. BIA identifies critical business functions, who supports them, and restoration time. Preventative controls are proactive measures taken in advance to bypass risks before they occur. Contingencies implement quick recovery strategies, such as having redundancies or alternatives to sustain operations. Testing, training, and maintenance are continuously performed routinely to validate and update BCP plans as business priorities and critical processes change. Software assurance needs and expectations provides confidence that software is secure with minimal vulnerabilities, including the interfaces with the software. Software assurance vulnerabilities in existing software is the shift to encouraging software designers and developers to improve overall software quality and security. To begin with, instead of as an afterthought requiring patching after vulnerabilities are identified. The operations and recommendations rationale are to use threat and security modeling. Threat modeling is a risk-based testing. Threat modeling principles prioritize and secure those areas of a software application that are at most risk, threat, or appeal the most to attackers. Security model is a formal scheme for specifying and enforcing security policies throughout each software development lifecycle phase. Software development lifecycle, SDLC, is cyclical, as the process repeats for upgrades, enhancements, and security improvements throughout its lifetime. Software is difficult to develop even with a team effort without a plan. The key attributes for all SDLC model plans are its distinct phases that incorporate various iterations of planning, analysis, design, building, testing, deployment, and maintenance. SDLC emphasizes timely, quality software development standards within budget. There are numerous SDLC models, but some of the more notable or prevalent models are Agile, DevOps, Iterative, Lean Development, Prototyping, Scrum, Spiral, and Waterfall. The Agile model produces ongoing incremental software release cycles where at each iteration, testing commences identifying minor issues before they evolve into more significant problems. The DevOps model, or its baked-in security model of DevSecOps, requires developers and operation teams to collaborate closely on a combined agile and lean software development methodology. The iterative model produces a working model early in its development and repeatedly revises per requirements. The lean model cuts wasted effort and time by focusing only on the immediate or most prominent tasking to deliver as fast and as efficiently as possible. The prototyping model produces a conceptual or early beta release that may not be fully operational, but will give customers a sense of final design, relying on their feedback throughout the remaining phases. The Scrum model is similar to the Agile model, breaking up complex requirements into small increments handled in sprints of 2 to 4 weeks. The Spiral model is the most flexible, cycling through 4 main phases of planning, risk analysis, engineering, and evaluation repeatedly until completed. The waterfall model structures its design process on phases that are rigidly built upon each other with little room for revision or backtracking once each stage is completed. The SDLC models, which address flaws in security up front, are more costly initially, but result in quality and security. From a cost and security perspective, the recommended models, which provide the best balance of value for the cost, are DevSecOps, Iterative, or Spiral. They reduce downtime, exploits, and vulnerabilities upfront and throughout their SDLC design instead of after product delivery. Supply chains are a risk that must be weighed or balanced with the cost of having to produce every component in a final product. Supply chain problems result from problems with suppliers. Therefore, it is essential to have a proactive plan for dealing with supply chains and their disruptions. Having supplier agreements up front with supply chains documents expectations for both parties. Limit exposure on both sides to protect both the organization and the supply chain supplier, including elimination of single points of failure caused by having only one supplier, so have alternatives or contingencies. Ensure integrity of the supply chain supplier by tracing their components to avoid conflicts of interest in the event they are owned by or dealing with adversarial nations. Monitor supply chain providers for threats and vulnerabilities. Implement controls to validate supply chain components are genuine and not forgeries. Routinely assess and audit supply chain suppliers using penetration testing or other vulnerability checks, and then inform them on their risks so they can be remediated. Security challenges at key phases include security recommendations for configuration, security risks, and security policies. Security posture reevaluations are required because security risks change or manifest at the expense of new development or growth. Business continuity planning, software assurance, and supply chain supplier contract clauses or terms and conditions should contain legal language to ensure that system, network, and operational security are met in providing components or services. Software assurance needs and expectations identified were threat and security models used to find risks and minimize vulnerabilities. The key attributes of SDLC vary depending upon model, with or without security baked in during its design. SDLC model options balanced functionality and speed over security, or in some combination of both, and recommended models were provided. Evaluated supply chain risks and the advice and the reason for mediation, and briefly covered costs described in terms of time and funding balanced with security. Armed with these details, nation CISOs and stakeholders are aware of these consideration operations in preparing defenses within their nations against the next cyber attack. References. By the way, I downloaded this PowerPoint template from a site on the internet to be able to use its free British themed PowerPoint template, which branded it as by presentationgo.com. But all slide content and written and spoken are uniquely mine, except where references were acknowledged. Thought I would mention it in case it is showing up in the slideshow. Thank you for listening. Dawn Salvant, over and out.